Hey, phony homies. On today's episode, we talk about this year's disappointments, surprises, and give you fantasy advice and tips on how to get to the playoffs. We're a third of the way through the season. Are you ready? Let's go. Hello and welcome to another fantastic episode of the Fake Football Guys Show. My name is Giancarlo Campos, and I'm your host. Alongside me is my co-host, the one and only Dustin DL Lingaman.
What's
Hey,
up?
what's up, DL?
What's up, my guy?
Hey,
How are
man.
you?
Hey, I'm doing great, man. I'm doing great. Just living great. Having a nice little cold one. You know how it goes.
Oh
How about you?
yeah, I'm going with Beguile, or
Yeah,
I'm sorry,
Bodum.
Bodum,
Bodum. Yeah,
Bodum,
good stuff.
a big one
Hefty
because
too, right?
it's gonna be a long show.
Oh, I can't
Long
wait. I
show,
can't wait.
man.
We're doing something a little different than we normally do. I
I
cannot
like it.
wait. Yeah, I
Change
can't
it
wait
up.
for what's in store. Before we get into that, DL, let's remind the people if you want to follow us on Twitter, DL, where can they follow us?
Simple at tweet FFG.
Yeah, real easy, real easy. And as always, we're trying to get it trending. No idea if it'll happen today, but maybe in the future. But DL, what is the hashtag if people have questions to ask us?
Ask us FFG.
Pretty easy, pretty simple. That Twitter handle and the hashtag is right there. It's right
Yeah,
there.
it's easy.
And yeah, and if you don't have Twitter and you prefer to use email, DL, where can they send those email questions?
Ask us FFG at gmail.com.
Love it. I love it. Plain and simple, not too difficult. Maybe some people don't have emails. I don't know. You never know. And if they want to, I don't know, leave a voicemail if that's more their speed.
I
DL,
think
what number can they call?
you know what, dude. I think you're lonely. I think you need some new friends, some family. I don't know, but if you're lonely and you miss JC, you might get to know him better. You can call him at area code 708-655-4508.
That's right. It's pretty simple. Leave us voicemails. You can call. Maybe I'll answer and I'll give you fantasy advice right there live. As always, please be sure to like, share, subscribe, and
Smash!
that notification button. We're on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and anywhere that you listen to your podcast.
Yes,
We're
sir.
everywhere.
We're
Yeah, we're
everywhere, man.
everywhere. Yeah. Speaking of being everywhere, football's everywhere. I just went to the Bears game this past week.
You
Unfortunately,
went.
I didn't. Yeah,
You
I didn't
actually
bring.
went to the game?
Yeah, I went with my girlfriend
Oh wait,
Bianca. It was awesome.
I'm sorry. Timeout. Did you get the tickets from Rudd? Because I
No,
know
I
you
didn't get
threw
the
in
tickets
the
from
chat.
Rudd.
No, different. Okay, cool.
Yeah, yeah. I got
Just
the
curious.
tickets from my brother's best friend Sean Houseworth. We call him House. From his step
Oh,
pops Stavo. He sold me the tickets at a great price. Cut a great deal. And my girl and I went. It was our 1 year anniversary weekend, so we had like a whole like weekend. Had
oh,
dinners on
congrats,
Friday and
dude.
Saturday. Thank you,
All
thank you.
right.
Had dinners and then celebrated off. Ended the weekend with a Bears loss, but it's probably for the best that we lost. So you know, it is what it is. But DL, that's not
Yes.
the reason why you're here, DL. Let's talk a little bit about this past week and week seven's performances. Anybody that played really well? Any standouts for you? How'd that go?
Uh, I mean, okay, let's just let the cat out of the bag. Obviously, me and JC, we're going head to head. Before we break it down exactly what happened, because I'm sure, some of you guys may already know, maybe you don't. But to be honest, like some of the big guys for myself, I would say Amon-Ra St. Brown. For my other leagues, obviously you had him against or against me. Let's see who else. I would say, I was kind of disappointed in Puka Nakua. Um, but I would say Amon-Ra St. Brown went very well for me. Brees Hall had a good game, especially against Philly, man. That was kind of a Philly got their first loss, dude, against the Jets. So I was a little shocked by that. I wasn't expecting like a huge return on that, but he did well. But that's about and Tariq Hill.
Oh, yeah, it's my guy.
Miami went off against Carolina. Not a huge shocker, but yeah, he did very, very well. So if you had like a stack, I don't know, a Tua, Treek, you probably did well this week. What about you, JC? How did your week
Yeah,
go?
yeah, Tua,
Son of a
Tyreek, St. Brown.
bitch.
You're naming guys on the team that took you down this week. I didn't wanna get
Mhm.
into it this early, if I'm being honest, but, let's just get to it. Cooper Kupp also had a
Okay.
big week. That's, another guy that had a big week.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Yeah, no,
Mhm.
go ahead, go ahead. So, DL, how does it feel to be on the losing end?
No,
And
no,
not
no.
just
Hold
the
on,
losing
hold
end.
on.
Go ahead. Yeah,
Let's set the table. Let's set
yeah.
the table. So, for those of you who actually pay attention to us, I threw out a poll on Twitter, and just to get an idea of like, who do you got? Who do you think is going to win this week? Um, and the funny homies showed up, and just to kind of give you a reference, JC, this is what they said. Okay, so can you see it, closer?
I could see it. I could see it.
You can't.
DL might be crazy, but sometimes it takes crazy to beat JC. I see it. I see it.
It was
And
close though. We had some votes. A lot of the phony homies were projecting me to win at a 57.7%, with you at 42. I was with you guys. Honestly, I thought I was gonna beat the pants off JC. However, I lost, and I lost horribly, horribly. I think I scored 92 points total. JC, I think you scored what, like
50.
155
Yeah.
or 150. But honestly, I don't think it's lack of like who I started. I think it was just injury. There was a huge, huge injury bug this week. You saw I had Montgomery, he went out. I had Christian McCaffrey, he went out. And those were like my two star guys that usually put me over. And a lot of other like running backs kind of went out too, like Kyron Williams, things of that nature. So it was kind of a crazy waiver wire, to be honest. But obviously, JC had a stack with Tua, and I would say Treek Hill, and he got a cherry on the top with St. Brown, who literally went off. St. Brown got like what, 31 points in our league, but what was it? I'm trying to pull up his stats. Wow, I'm losing it. Dead air, but not that dead, because Treek Hill in week 6 did very well. He had 12 yards receiving, 124 yards, one touchdown. So obviously he was the GOAT of that game, the GOAT, GOAT, GOAT.
Yeah,
So
12 receptions, 12 receptions. Yeah, 12 receptions and 100 plus yards, and he went bananas.
congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
It was a well fought battle.
Thank you.
I think if CMC didn't get injured, I didn't hit the injury bug, I think I would have done fairly better, but I don't want to sound like Ben. It is what it is. It's fantasy. People are going to get injured. You put your best lineup out there, and JC did well.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
I
you.
think
You did get hit by the injury bug.
he
Devontae
did.
Smith had an underwhelming game. Rashad White didn't do jack. McCaffrey got hurt. Montgomery got hurt. Nakua was a letdown. Stafford had a subpar game. It was just a perfect storm for me and a terrible one for you.
Yeah.
It just happens from time to time. I'm not gonna gloat. I took the W, and here we are.
Yeah, I want to gloat either because I'm still above you in the
Can
overall
we talk about
rankings.
that? Let's. This
Overall
is what
rankings.
fantasy. Yeah, this is what fantasy is.
You want me to pull up our listing as you
Yeah,
talk
if you
about it?
can. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah, if
go
you
ahead.
can, that'd be fantastic because if we look at the overall standings, yes, I'm not doing too hot. I'm in 8th place out of 10 man in this league and woman. But, that's
And
not
woman.
really the
So we
story
got
of the
one girl.
season. Yeah. That's not really the story of the season. If we look here, and you're not gonna be able to tell anything, hopefully Dusty could pull it up. I have
I
scored
am.
the second most points in the league, and I'm in 8th place.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's just the
Hold on.
luck that you get. Sometimes it's just the way the cookie crumbles. Sometimes you could have a great team, you just lose, and it will go against teams on their best day, and that happens from time to time. I could have sworn there were years in fantasy where I thought I had one of the top 2 or 3 teams, and I didn't even make it to the playoffs. That happens, and in a league where we don't make trades, this is what my team is. I really think I have an elite team, but yeah, if you scroll
Okay.
down, you'll see me in a banana suit, and yeah, I'm in 8th place. It's
Two and
sad.
four. 2 and 4.
Can you click on the PF right next to the win
No,
loss
no,
and
no, no,
tie?
no, no. I just hold on, hold on.
Uh-huh.
And then we got this is my team, guys. Run CMC 3-3. Okay. I'm batting 500. Okay.
Yeah.
All
And
right. So
before you
you
go
want
any
me to click
further
on
You've scored a total of 773 points. Can you highlight your team? Just highlight it. because it's right there.
733
7
points.
against you have been scored. So
Oh, gotcha. 773. Okay.
you've gotten like really good matchups. It's worked out really nicely for you, you know? And that's
Mhm.
how you're 3-3. If you scroll down to my team, I've scored a total of 836 points, but they've had 782 points scored on me. And I would venture to guess that's got to be, among the highest. There are some teams that have gotten whomped and just mollywopped, and you could see them. But let's click on the PF, please. If you could click on the PF at the top, let's see if it'll let you organize by the PF. Does it let you click on it?
I mean,
Oh,
no,
you're
just
clicking the
by team
teams.
by team.
Yeah,
By
yeah.
team by team, it doesn't
Hold
like
on. If you highlight just click on the PF. Does that let you do it? It
nope,
doesn't? Alright, it's
nope.
okay. It lets you do it on the app. My apologies, but hard to tell. But if you saw it, I've scored the second most points in the league, and yet here we are in 8th place, and that's just the way it goes sometimes, you know? It's fantasy. You never know. Any given Sunday, anything can happen. But it's not about us. It's about you, the phony homie, and we wanna go over a lot about what you can do. We're about a third of the way through the season, DL.
Yeah.
And, we're in a bunch of leagues between you and I, and fantasy
Hold on
yeah, fantasy's been
to
kinda
what
crazy.
we got.
It's been crazy, but,
We're gonna
here we
make
are.
it or not. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, no, it's okay, it's okay. We have a special show for you, the
Yes.
viewer. We actually have one of our phony homies that's gonna stand in and, be part of the show this week. He is a what I would consider a fantasy expert. He's been doing fantasy for a very long time. We're gonna introduce to you Tim Peterson. Tim?
Timmy!
Hey, how's it going?
What's up, guys? How are you?
It looks like he's it looks like we're good, we're good. It looks like you're being, recorded on a potato. That's what it looks like on my end. DL, how's it look on yours?
It'll shake out. It'll shake out.
Am I right
It'll
here?
shake
That's what
out.
I'm working with here. But I'm happy to be with you guys. I'm a long-time
Okay,
listener,
cool,
first-time
cool.
guest.
Well,
So
that's thanks. Hey,
Yeah.
love it,
Hey.
love it. I
Timmy's
would
always one. You know
I'm
what,
happy to
Tim?
be with
I
you.
just gotta say
Happy to
thank
be
you
with
for the
you.
support. He's usually the first one. Anytime we tweet anything, he's on there. He gives like real time advice. He gives like his real perspective. Even though he's JC, part of JC's like crew, he still has my back every once in a while here and there.
Yeah,
And he made the right decision. He picked JC to win.
I did. I
So
did.
congrats.
I was
and he
I was part of that poll. You know, the 7 people that voted. I was
So-
I was
you mean the
trying to hold the weight.
107 people voted? No, but no, man, it's awesome. I'm glad to meet you like face to face or I guess virtually. But like, you've always had her back, man. You always like her stuff. You always retweet her stuff. So thank you so much for the support. But yeah, I'll let JC go ahead and kind of get in the depths of
Yeah.
how you know each other.
Yeah, Tim, as Dustin was saying so eloquently, thank you for joining us. Let's go ahead and get started. Tim, tell us a little bit about yourself. What do you do? And how long have you been playing fantasy for?
Oh, well, the first question, I'm just a suburban dad. You know, I'm out here twins, so I've got my hand full with 18-month-old twins. But
Oh, hey.
when I do have some free time, I do as much fantasy as possible. 12, 13. We've run the gamut of almost all the sports. I've obviously football this entire time, baseball now for going on 10 years. I think we've done hockey a few times.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I want to try to reset it. Hold on. Give me a
Yeah,
sec.
from time to time this happens.
those
Technology
now, but,
happens.
I mean,
If we could get Tim to
I've
sign off
tampered
and then
with a little
sign
bit of
back
everything,
on
so-
to restream, that'd be
not
fantastic. Tim, if you could sign off and then sign back on. Usually that
Sure.
that filters out everything. But in the meantime, DL, if we could talk a little bit just about what to expect on this show. The phony homies are in for a treat, like we're saying. After Tim and while Tim is on, we're going to talk a little bit about this year's disappointments. We're about a third of the way through the season.
Mhm.
And we're going to talk about disappointments, guys who have let you down. This year's surprises, guys who have come out of nowhere or just playing above, what we expected, and a little bit of fantasy advice, what to do with some of those players. Should you trade them? Should you keep them? What you should do. But yeah, and we welcome Tim back on to the show. Tim, you were letting us know a little bit about yourself and how long you've been doing
Yes.
fantasy. You did tell us that you've done fantasy football, basketball, baseball, hockey. I wouldn't be surprised if you did a little bit of golf in there, a little bit of everything, a little bit of everything. But you've been doing it for the better part of 15-ish or so years. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, sounds good. Now, Tim, we have a lot of questions for you. We're going to go ahead and bring Dustin back in here. Um, Dustin, we're going to go ahead and start the show off here by talking a little bit about disappointments this year. DL, if you could let us know some of the guys that you're feeling like have been letting you down. We're going to start at the quarterback position. Let me throw a name out to you, the Bears fan. A guy that I thought was a disappointment thus far is Justin Fields. What say you?
I disagree. I think he's right in the middle. I wouldn't say he's a total disappointment. I mean, the last 2 weeks before this previous game, I felt that like he was definitely like he was worth the draft pick he had. Unfortunately, he just isn't in the right system. So he had 2 really good weeks. Obviously, the run game isn't there. So for PPR formats, that's probably why most people probably drafted Justin Fields in a PPR format, because he has the legs, right? He started showing off some of his skills when it comes to, in general of throwing the ball. I mean, DJ Moore had a great game against I would say Washington, but honestly, like, I mean, I think it was like that North or New England game last year, right, where he was like somewhat good and somewhat not. But yeah, I mean, Justin Fields has not been the best guy. I don't think he's a total loss. Sorry, phony homies, we're having a little bit of technical difficulties. But nonetheless, I guess some of the sneaky starts I would say this year would have to be, hold on, let's see, JC is back. This is going great. He's frozen. So it's gonna be a Dustin show. I hope everyone's here to listen to me talk. Yeah, I would definitely say, like, I guess some of the bigger guys that I'm surprised by or let down. Let's go with let down, right? So I drafted Dallas Goedert. I thought he would have a great year this year. He's been kind of slow to start. I would say that. I would also say even like T. Higgins has been like kind of a slow start as well. All right,
T.
JC's back.
Higgins. Oh, thank
T.
God I'm
Higgins,
back. Good
bro.
grief, Charlie Brown. We're on quarterbacks. Let's talk about quarterbacks.
Oh,
We'll
I'm
start off
sorry.
with guys
See
who have
what
been,
happens when you
no
leave me.
worries, guys that have been bad this year, disappointments. Let's talk about
Okay.
Joe Burrow to start out. And if we could bring Tim back on, we'd love to. Hopefully he can reconnect here. It
I
happens
think
from time to time.
we're good, guys. I
There
think
he
it's
is.
just a
We're
at the
little
end
okay.
of the
refresh.
There we go.
This happens from time
Okay.
to time. If you're watching the show, you can fast forward about 2 minutes and you'll catch us. We're here. We're live. Here we are. So the first guy we're going to go ahead and talk about that has been a disappointment is Joe Burrow. Now,
Yeah.
a lot of that has been due to injury, but it's hurting some of his players. It's hurting some of the guys that you've rostered. And this is what happens when the quarterback goes down. The receivers have to pay for it. The running back has to pay for it. And it's just the nature of the beast. That's why a lot of people were staying clear of him at the beginning of the year. We'll throw it over to Dustin. Dustin, can you talk a little bit about how Joe Burrow has been affecting you and the kind of season he's had?
Well, like I mentioned, T. Higgins has seen a drop. I would speculate, or I won't even speculate. A lot of Jamar Chase managers have been like dealing with it too, right? And really, it comes down to, oh, Lord Goose is on here. He was wondering what was going on. Anywho, so yeah, I mean, it boils down to this. Like, okay, Joe Burrow, first of all, came into the season injured, right? He didn't really have a lot of the preseason. Even when they ramped him up, he was still injured, still dealing with it. And you saw that because he wasn't mobile. Now you see Joe Burrow kind of moving around, and you're seeing the offense kind of like, jump up and be back to the way it was like last year. And that's why I said a couple episodes back is that, the first month of fantasy football or even football in general is just an extension of the preseason, right? So you can't really like buy in or get too crazy with like, all right, I got to get rid of Jamar Chase because the first month he sucked. However, you may take the L's, right? Long story short, though, you're going to see now that most teams are going to start to gel. And that's another thing I would say towards the end is like stay active on the waiver wire. I don't care if you're 1-5 or 0-5 or 0-6.
We'll get
You
there. We'll get there. We'll get there. We'll get there. Yeah,
I'm
yeah, yeah,
excited
yeah,
to
yeah.
talk about it.
No, it's okay. It's okay. Tim, you talk a little bit about Joe Burrow and why he hasn't been good. I know we're talking about a little bit about injury, but is there any other factors that could be, holding him up from, being as good as we think he is, a top 5 quarterback? Great job, Tim. I agree with you
Yeah,
wholeheartedly.
totally. Dude,
Yeah,
Tim, you
so
got this.
so I know it because Tim and I are linked. We're best friends. That offensive line is bad, and because Joe Burrow is not mobile, I definitely think it's showing glaring, issues with that offense. He's got a bum leg, and he's finally starting to get a little bit better, a little bit healthier, and you're starting to see Chase, shining through. And now with T Higgins coming back, same thing. I think that's what's going to happen. DL, let's talk about another quarterback that hasn't been too good. A guy who I would say has been a bust this year. He was a top 15 quarterback last year, and this year he's been the number 28th ranked quarterback in fantasy, and that is Daniel Jones. DL, a little bit about Daniel Jones. That offense has looked bad. He has not looked good. The accuracy hasn't been there. He has not been running as much as he's used to. A little bit about Daniel Jones and that offense, DL.
What do you mean? I mean, did you really think? I mean, okay, I'm gonna take my fantasy hat off. I mean, I thought it was ridiculous that they extended Daniel Jones such a big contract. Number
I agree.
one, number two, like I didn't really see anything last year where I was like really excited about Daniel Jones at all.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes,
Yes.
we can.
All right, here we go.
We're talking about Daniel Jones.
Who he's been awful.
Yeah, thank
Yeah.
you. Yeah, like I'm not even like I don't know why you would be disappointed. I don't
Well,
think you drafted him high.
he
Did
finished
you?
the number
Or
7 fantasy quarterback last year, for reference. So to be the 28th ranked is, glaring. And a lot of guys took him late. They went with the strategy that I like to go to, where I don't draft a quarterback in the first 6, 7 rounds, and then I start taking the guys who are there in the 8th, 9th, 10th round. And a lot of guys were rostering a guy like Daniel Jones paired with a guy like Anthony Richardson, and then playing the hot hand. So to see Daniel Jones be bad, this bad at least, I think I wasn't expecting it, and I think a lot of people weren't.
I was. I mean, I
Here,
don't know why you're bringing it.
okay,
I honestly
fine,
don't know why.
fine.
I don't like him.
Maybe that's fine. He was number 7th in fantasy.
Sorry.
That's got to count for something. I'll give you another one
Mm.
that people were really high on. Deshaun Watson has also been
Okay, let's talk
bad,
about Deshaun Watson. I'll
and he's
talk
the
about him.
highest
Yeah.
paid quarterback in fantasy football, in football in
Hmm.
general. Like
And
to
he
be
got
this
paid a
bad,
lot. Yep.
oof, jeez.
Okay, let's talk about Deshaun Watson because, like, honestly, in my deep league, my 14-man league, you can keep one. He was a keeper, and like I kept him. I drafted him last year. I kept him because it was like the next year you didn't have to pay for him, and it wasn't that big of a deal. However, long story short, I thought he was going to show up and just crush because last year he came in like what week 11, like he came like really far deep. So I was expecting high hopes because they got Amari Cooper, they got Nick Chubb, they got I'm like blanking on the
Elijah
other
Moore.
wide.
Elijah
Thank you.
Moore, David Njoku.
Yeah,
They
exactly.
got some
Like he's
guys.
got an offense, he's got like a stout defense. Like, all right, dude, let's go. And this year he's been nothing but a crybaby. Like even like with his injury now, I'm not. Don't get me wrong, I get it. Rotator cuff, like that's not fun, and that is painful. But I feel like he's just kind of like, I don't want to go. And then you see PJ Walker come in, and Amari Cooper has the best game all season. So yeah, he's a huge letdown. I'm really sad about him. And I would say also, just to throw one in, Dak Prescott. I'm
Yeah,
sure a lot of people probably weren't like, oh yeah, I'm going to draft Dak because he didn't have a great season last year. However, I thought, okay, you got, this whole like Texas, what do they call it? The Texas West Coast or Texas spread or whatever. Anyways, a new offense insulated with McCarthy, and he was like, "Yeah, here we go." And then you see CD Lamb getting pissed off,
oh
so
yeah.
he's gonna let down too. I'm not
Tim,
saying
your thoughts?
Dak was huge, but yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah, so my guy player this year, and I unfortunately be talking about him later, but he's tied to this quarterback who is Trevor Lawrence. I had high hopes for Trevor Lawrence just to take that leap forward. I didn't even think it was going to be a next step. I thought he was going to take a leap forward.
Yeah, I would say like
way more 300-yard game through Travis Etienne and all that. But so far, it's been more running, a little bit more defense. Some things not his fault. There's been a lot of drops in the end zone. I think Calvin Ridley leads the league in drops, so that's not helping his case at all. So right now, I don't know if he's more of a buy low or you hold, but right now it's hard. We'll see this Thursday.
Yeah, we will see. We will see. The same position. Let's talk about some guys who have been surprises this year. I want to start out with a guy like Tua Tagovailoa. He has been fantastic. As Tim knows, I have been on Tua since the offseason. I thought he would be a perfect candidate to get a guy who, was hurt. It's not his fault that he keeps getting hurt. And his fantasy season has not been what, a lot of people think he could be. He has all the weapons, the offensive line, running backs, receivers. He got it all. And he's a top 3 quarterback right now in fantasy. Tim, what are your thoughts on Tua?
Okay.
Going into the season is you basically said it, and it's never year. So it was I know he was doing how to fall backwards, which sounds ridiculous, but I mean, when you have 2, maybe a third year like that, that's awful. So whatever he can and healthy and on the field, I mean, he's going to be
Tua's been great
all year.
Great. Here's the thing. Here's the thing. Hold on, I want to get my 2 cents on Tua because everyone thought he's going to be great and all this, and he has been. I'm looking at his his points. I mean, he's 20 plus, right? He's a start. Forget it, set it and forget it, right?
Yep.
But if you're looking at towards the end of the year, especially when you get into the playoffs, man, I mean, he's going up against some really stout teams, right?
That's a good observation. Who's he going up against?
He's going to go, I mean, New England, but I'm not too. I mean, New England's defense isn't bad, right? So this week he's going up against Philly, which there's 6 overall points given to a quarterback. However, he gets New England, Kansas City, goes on a bye, Vegas, the Jets again, Washington, which not too. But then towards the end, when you need him in your playoffs, right? He's going against Tennessee, the Jets again, Dallas, and Baltimore.
Great defenses, and that's a great observation on your part. Is that a guy that you think you'd try to move and sell high on?
Yeah, I would.
What could you get for him?
I mean, I would sell high sooner than later. I would definitely sell high before it gets anything too crazy.
Yeah. Let me give you a name. I think that you'd be interested in another guy who's performing, maybe above his head, maybe not, because he's got all the weapons. Jared Goff has been a top 5 fantasy quarterback this year. And I think that's a guy with a lot more favorable fantasy playoff schedule.
I'm glad you brought this up, and I hope my brother-in-law is watching because we literally drafted together, and he laughed. He laughed out loud and called me a loser for grabbing Jared Goff. He's like, "Are you kidding me? You have your own podcast and you're grabbing Jared Goff? Are you an idiot?" And yes, I agree. Jared Goff, the Lions defense, man, is gonna be legit, or not the offense.
I drive a Golf. But go ahead.
You drive a Golf? Okay. But the Lions offense is obviously they're going to take over the NFC North, right? That's not a surprise.
Yeah.
And on top of that, I mean, if I'm pulling up who he's looking at towards the end of the season, right? So in week 7, he's going against Baltimore, Las Vegas, got a bye in the 9th, but then he gets the Chargers, Chicago Bears.
The face.
Yeah, exactly, because they're not going to be anything. He gets the Chicago Bears twice. He gets in week 11, week 14, and then after 14, towards the end of the season, you got Denver, Minnesota, and then he gets Dallas in week 17. But obviously, within that, I'd rather take that versus 4 weeks or a month of actually dealing with that. So
Yeah, a guy that I think would be, a good guy to try to finagle off some team. I could definitely see it. I'm gonna go ahead and throw one more surprise quarterback. I'm gonna throw it over to you, Tim. Brock Purdy has been a top 10 quarterback in fantasy this year. Do you see that holding? And what's that
Yep.
playoff schedule look like for him?
Yep.
Yeah, he sure has. He was actually going to be the guy I brought up as well, so perfect timing. Yeah, he's been top 10. I believe it's well earned. He's in the system for that. He's got the weapons as long as they stay healthy. We know that's not always the case. We got CMC banged up. We've got Decoy Samuel playing out there. So, I mean, it's
I like it. Decoy
it's
Samuel. I like
just
that.
been, crazy. You got Kittle scoring 3 touchdowns one game, and then you're not going to hear from him for another 6.
No, I agree. And like you look at his percentage No, I'm sorry. Just like his accuracy, like the dude doesn't miss. Like he's played like 4 games. I would say his first 4 games, 100% accuracy. Like the dude doesn't miss. He doesn't make stupid mistakes. He's more than just like a game manager. Like he's crushing it. I mean, even looking over his numbers, I mean, I would say he's averaging about 25 points per game, bro. Like that's nuts. And then you look at the rest of his season, right? He's got to buy in the 9th, right? Then he goes against Jacksonville, Tampa Bay, but then he's got Seattle, Philly, Seattle, Arizona. Baltimore's a little rough, but he ends with the playoffs. Washington. There you go, with Washington, right? Yep. So Brock Purdy is a guy that I would definitely like stash. I'm starting him this week because I had Justin Fields on one of my teams, and like, I'm not gonna start him because he's not gonna play. But I'm like so confident in this guy. I was like, all right, cool. Brock Purdy, and I guarantee he's out there on your waiver wires too. So this is a guy that I would definitely grab and stash.
Yeah. Same.
And I mean, I would even feel, honestly, let me take another look. Let me just double check here. Even against Cincinnati, I would start his ass. I mean, I feel confident you could set him and forget it for the rest, for sure.
Yeah. And that'll do it for quarterbacks. Let's jump over to a different position. Another position that has been, I always say really volatile, a position that I try to steer clear of drafting in the first 2 rounds. I did that this year in Tim's league. One of the biggest disappointments this year, we'll start in Detroit. Jahmyr Gibbs has been, I don't even think it's his fault, but a lot of people were taking him in the first 3-4 rounds, and he's not getting the touches. Craig Reynolds is getting more touches than Jahmyr Gibbs, which is crazy. And, Gibbs has all the talent in the world, the best receiving back there, the most explosive, but they continue to rely on, the old faithful, reliable Chicago favorite, David Montgomery, and now Craig Reynolds. DL, what do you got on, Jahmyr Gibbs? How do you feel about him?
I think he's a rookie, and I think you roll the dice on him, and especially with PPR formats, you're like really excited about him. I wouldn't give up on him, but yeah, I think it's a little lackluster. You thought he was gonna be like this guy who's coming out of the backfield, and he was gonna overtake the backfield away from Montgomery. Montgomery's having a great year, so yeah, I mean, I'm not disappointed, but yeah, I would feel more comfortable putting him in a flex spot, to be honest.
Yeah. Tim, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like he's a buy low candidate. He's a rookie guy, so a lot of times early on, he's not going to get the workload with Montgomery banged up. I'd say, we got to see how these next couple weeks go.
He has one big game, and he could take, the lion's share of the touches. And he has 2 big games, and when Montgomery comes back, they're 50-50 split. The downside is Montgomery's going to get all the goal line touches, and that's your bread and butter in fantasy. That's quick points no matter what happens. So that's the downside. I'll give you another name of a guy who people drafted early.
Oliver, hold on. I want to back up. Yeah. Montgomery is a sneaky draft pick because he went late in most rounds, and I think he's literally
he went like the 7th, 8th round.
Exactly.
Usually that's what they had him projected. I mean, that's solid, but he's outperformed it.
I don't think
he was undervalued.
Yeah, he was.
That's my point. I'll move on, and I'm glad I grabbed him. Go ahead.
Yeah. Another guy who's been, hasn't been as good as people were drafting him, Javonte Williams. And I mean, he's coming off an injury plague season. He hasn't been good either. What do you guys
Yeah,
think?
but I'll take this. Kamara was coming back. Like, you knew that. And if you drafted him, you knew that was going to happen. You probably thought like you'd get like a good like 3 games out of him. But at the end of the day, he's a handcuff, dude. Like, I don't think he was ever going to take it. So that's my thought. I don't know
Yeah,
why you would
yeah.
go with him.
I disagree. They had P. Ryan and Jaleel McLaughlin, and those aren't names that you're going to think are going to overtake a backfield. Tim, what are your thoughts on Javonte Williams' season so far? Is he a buy low, or are you steering clear?
I'm steering clear. I was not high on him. I don't buy in on the post ACL or injuries like that for that first year. Give him this season to heal. I'll be in on him next year, but for the rest of this season, I'm out.
Same here. It's the same way I felt about J.K. Dobbins. I wasn't too high on him last year, but this year I was. Unfortunately, got hurt again. But, I also didn't feel, really excited about Javonte Williams as well. I shared similar sentiments. Another name for a running back who hasn't been that good. And, if you were listening to training camp reports, the backup was outplaying him. Najee Harris has not been good this year in fantasy. He has been a major disappointment ever since he had a foot injury last year. Jalen Warren has looked more explosive, has looked like the better running back. He could do it all. He just looks better. Najee Harris has been a disappointment. What do you guys have to say about that?
I agree. I think Najee Harris, like last year, like we talked about the Liz Frank fracture that he had, and he just lost it. I'm not saying he's a horrible back, but like for fantasy purposes, like, yeah, I would steer clear of him. And yeah, I think the backup is definitely overtaking it. And I think he looks like the more explosive back. That's my thought.
Jalen. Yeah, Tim.
Jalen, thank you.
And let's hope that continues this week, because unfortunately I'm forced to play Jalen Warren. I drafted him in my main league, and I've got Pollard on bye, I've got Mixon on bye, and I've got some other starting guy. So,
but honestly, that's not a bad fill-in.
It's not, but when my 2 top backs are
gone, that's better. At least that's a lot better than like a Justice Hill, right? Like let
me give you one more name.
Or Craig. Yeah, I mean
Craig Reynolds. I probably would rather start Craig Reynolds. I don't know.
Really?
He's gonna get
with injury
for one reason. Yeah. No matter what, he's gonna get a goal line touch. You just know it. That's the only thing. Here's what I'll say: the last running back that has been a major disappointment, and I happen to roster him everywhere, and Tim and I share him in a league. Miles Sanders has been bad, and yes, he's fighting injury, but he's been bad, and I don't think it's completely his fault because he plays on a trash team in the Carolina Panthers. But yeah.
Well,
Tim, what do you think?
I'm sorry. Let's back it up a little bit. Let's talk about Swifty and Kenneth Gainwell, right? Because I feel like a lot of people drafted Kenneth Gainwell over Swifty, and Swifty's having a better year, right? I'm sorry, I'm totally changing everything you just set up.
Yeah,
totally just blowing up that Titanic.
Different teams. No worries. Yeah, it's okay.
But let's talk about that like real quick, because the Seattle backfield, or I'm sorry, the Philadelphia backfield is something to be talking about. Do you think Swifty's going to hold up, or do you think Kenneth Gainwell is going to like come back and like reclaim King of the Hill?
It's tough.
Quick. I'm sorry.
It's tough on that team.
My bad.
I think it's okay. Their best running back is Jalen Hurts. So I really don't want anything to do with that backfield. If it's up to me, I try to flip whoever has the best game, because you never know. I will never be confident starting one of those guys, personally. That's just me.
Okay, go back to your original question. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So Miles Sanders has been terrible. Tim, what say you on Miles Sanders? Is it buy low? Do you sell immediately and get nothing? How do you feel about him?
If you can sell, you sell.
Or drop him like he's hot.
I don't have anything else. If you can sell. If not, I mean, you're holding on. I mean, you can't. Yeah. He's a guy you can't really drop. You're hoping he gets healthy and you can start him again, but until then, it's just you're kind of. He's one of those landmine players that you hold on your bench, and you decide you drop it and hopefully somebody else carries them for the rest of the season and screws them over, or is it going to be me?
Yeah.
Or what about how he? Okay, real quick before we move on, I know I'm probably gonna break the rules by talking a little bit longer, but how do you feel about Chuba Hubbard? Like, if you were one of those guys that was left, are you excited about Chuba Hubbard, or are you trying to sell high?
Here's how I feel. The quarterback's playing bad, and when the quarterback plays bad, and that's Bryce, you got 8 in the box, 9 in the box, and you can't go anywhere. I don't care what running back you are, you're not going to be able to do jack shit. Now the offensive line's decent, but they're going through a bunch of injuries too. Honestly, I mean, the better running back, I think, when healthy, is Miles Sanders. I truly think he's a solid, talented running back, but I really don't want anything to do with that Carolina offense. Nothing. There's one guy I want, and that's Adam Thielen, and that's it. And we'll talk about him. Yeah, we'll talk about him
Okay,
soon.
go ahead. Move on. Go ahead.
Sorry, yeah. Let's talk about some guys who've been, surprises this year. We'll start with one of the guys who I'm a big fan of, and I drafted him. Unfortunately, I traded him for peanuts as a throw-in. But Devon Achane. DL, what do you think about Achane, and how is he? He's top 5 running back this year. Were you surprised? Is it a guy that you're buying?
I mean that was a sneaky. If you had that perspective and you grabbed him, kudos to you. I would obviously keep him, right? Like, he's gonna come back, he's gonna take over the backfield, and he may help you towards the end when you get to the playoff. Unfortunately, he's gonna be out for a month. He's gonna be out for 4 weeks. So hopefully you can pivot and get one of these random guys, like, I don't know, Kevin Warren. Is it Kevin Warren?
No, yeah, that's the
sorry.
The Bears.
Sorry.
Okay. You always got the Bears on your mind. It's okay.
But Warren from the
Jalen
Chargers.
Warren
No, the number one pickup this week.
Oh, wow. Yeah. What about him?
I'm just saying, if you can grab him and then get through the next 4 weeks, I think that's your guy, dude.
He'll be fine. Yeah.
Wow. Going great.
Zach Evans. It's okay.
Zach Evans. Holy cow.
It's okay. Don't worry about it.
Zach Evans. Yeah. I think if
you
grabbed him, I think, just weather the storm. But yeah, I think Achane coming back, dude, that's the guy, I think, in the backfield.
It's a super interesting backfield because Tim and I know, because we co-own a team, and we roster Raheem Mostert. And, I was a little nervous as what to do when you have a guy like Achane who just looks like the better running back, but you have a guy like Mostert who is an accomplished running back, has been doing it time and time again, the better pass blocker, the bigger running back, the guy you want in goal line. What are you doing with those two running backs? Are you selling one of them? Are you keeping them? Do you think both of them can coexist in that backfield?
I think they can coexist. However, if you can sell high on Mostert and you're getting a top 5 guy in return or a top wide receiver, it's not a bad idea. We all know Mostert playing 16, 17 games. That is probably highly unlikely, unfortunately. I mean, it's history. History repeats itself. I mean, I hope he stays healthy. I have him in a few places, and I hope to continue to have him in a few places. But I mean, I feel like he's a guy who people aren't really trying to trade for because they know what he is, who he is, and the amount it would cost is going to be too high.
Yeah, agreed. One more surprise this year. Another guy that I've been surprised about. Every time I've ever had him on a roster, I always get a stick and poke him and say, do something. And that guy has been doing something. Zach Moss has been so good this year. He's, in some leagues, depending on your scoring, has been a top 5 back. He's definitely top 7 or 8 in your league. Zach Moss has been fantastic. And the shitty part about this is Jonathan Taylor is there, and he's going to steal his touches on name recognition alone. And they just gave him an extension. What do you do with Zach Moss, DL? Are you holding on to him? Are you hoping he gets half the carries? What are you doing here? Can you sell high? What are you trying to do? Sell now because Taylor's going to eat into his snaps? What are you doing?
I mean, you could have sold him high 2 weeks ago, right? Right when you heard Jonathan Taylor's coming off of IR, you probably could have sold him high, or a little, or even a week before that. Excuse me.
Mm-hmm.
However, I mean, even with Jonathan Taylor coming back, he had a phenomenal game. Not this week, but the week before. But you're seeing that Jonathan Taylor's getting more touches.
Mm-hmm.
They're working around him a little bit more,
easing him in. Yeah.
I mean, it's tough because at this point, I don't think you're going to get a return on your investment. But I mean, if you can sell them now, get what you can now.
DL, are you selling them for 70 cents on the dollar? Are you at least doing that, or what's your price range? What do you think?
I mean, yeah, maybe 70 cents. I mean, running backs that you could probably Yeah, oh man, that's tough. That
Yeah,
is a
it's
tricky question
tough.
because you're not gonna get top tier. You're not.
You
You're
think we
not.
could try
Not at this
to?
point.
You think you could try to get like a Joe Mixon, a Damian Pierce? How
Maybe
about
I was
Damian Pierce.
I was
Yes.
just going to bring up Damian Pierce and say,
yeah?
he's on a bye this week. Do you send that?
Why
Immediately or
not?
Khalil Herbert? I go get Khalil Herbert. I'll just trade him away for Khalil Herbert, who's hurt right now on
Yeah,
IR for the next
I
4
would
weeks.
say
And
that.
I
Let's
I
say, and
go.
I
mean,
say your first step is to go to the JT owner and see
Mm,
what he's
yes,
got, and
agreed.
he's going to want him the most.
Yeah,
And I would say
yeah.
if I'm the JT owner and I also own him, it's as of right now. I don't know who to start. Do you start them both? I mean, it's
I
until
mean,
one.
he's becoming that handcuff, right? It just sucks because
Yeah,
like he's actually producing, but you can
right.
see the writing's on the wall, right? Like,
It should be correct.
I mean, especially with the whole drama with the off, like sending his contract and the Colts showing him love, like they're gonna like make sure that he gets touches. And if you've watched our episodes before, that's what you gotta look for, the touches. And you're gonna see a little bit more and more of Zach Moss not getting those. However, the dude can catch. So in PPR formats, he might have a little bit more value. Um, but yeah, I mean, at this point, man, it's rolling the dice. It really is. Like even last week, I benched. I have Jonathan Taylor because I just picked him up on the flyer. I was like, whatever. And I benched Jonathan Taylor. However, Jonathan Taylor did better, and it just sucked, dude. So if I'm looking at it, I think Jonathan Taylor is going to get more touches. I think that Zach Moss is kind of on the way out. However, if I am a Jonathan Taylor manager, I would definitely want to handcuff him
for sure,
because why
for
not?
sure. That's a good point. And before we move to tight ends, Tim, is there any other running backs that you think have been a surprise or a disappointment?
Actually, yeah, there's one guy I want to bring up who I feel like was overlooked and probably for the wrong reasons, and that's
Hmm.
Alvin Kamara.
Oh,
Because he starts the year with, well, I guess during draft season, I don't know if we knew exactly how many days it would be or how many
we
weeks
didn't.
it would be.
Not
But
if
then
you draft in early August or mid August.
right,
Yeah, so we didn't know he was gonna miss, how much time that he was gonna miss 3 weeks. The suspension hadn't been
right, and
levied
then we
yet.
find out it's only going to be 3. So in there, you've got an older running back. What is he? Probably he's got to be about 31 now. So just this
Hmm.
this aging running back, and now he's looking like Alvin Kamara. I mean, if you bought
Hmm.
in, you're extremely happy with how this has played out. So, yeah. So, congrats to you.
Yeah. I have him in Dustin's league, and one of the guys who helped me beat him this week. So definitely a guy I would go try to buy if I could. That's definitely
Yeah,
a guy.
and honestly, like I had him last year. So last year was like kind of a da. I would say like because the one thing that always makes me kind of hesitant with Alvin is that you got Taysom Hill, right? And it looks like they're not really doing that like BS anymore. We're like, oh, Taysom Hill comes in and gets a touchdown. So I think Alvin Kamara is going to have definitely a better season, especially Derek Carr behind the helm. Yeah, I would totally, if you can grab him, if you can kind of maybe even trade Jonathan Taylor for Alvin. What do you guys think about that? Like, you think that's a fair
I'd rather have
deal?
Alvin. Yeah, I'd rather have Alvin.
Same.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
especially since Jonathan Taylor had like a decent game, he didn't like go off, but
Mhm.
it's enough to be like, okay. However, Alvin had a pretty. They're, I feel like they're right at that middle ground of like, okay, one of them is going to go off. And I'd rather have Alvin because he's been rested too.
Yeah, I just don't
He's
think
been
that Kentrell
suspended for
Miller
like what, 4 games?
three games, 3 games. I
3
just don't
games?
think Kentrell Miller is a threat to the throne, for Alvin Kamara. Whereas I
Nope.
think Zach Moss is going to eat at Jonathan Taylor's touches because he's been so effective and he's earned the touches.
Mhm.
That's just it. And in fantasy, you're in a place where it's all about opportunity. That is what
Mhm.
we go by. So, all right, let's jump over to tight end, another place that has tons of opportunity and
Oh
very few
Lord. We're
perform.
going
There's
tight
been
end?
Yeah, there's been a ton of guys who have been disappointments. So let me just name some guys that have been bad, okay? Bad. Dalton
All of them?
Kincaid. Yeah, he's a rookie, but he's ranked 41st in fantasy. And people were drafting him as a top 10, top 13, 14 tight end. He's been bad. Um, Chigoziem Okonkwo, bad. He's been bad. David Njoku is ranked 33, and he's
That
consensus top 10 tight end. Let me give you a few more names, and you guys can pick who you want on the list. Dawson Knox has been bad. He had one great year, well, really good year, not great, and he's been bad, and he's ranked 30th in fantasy. Let's keep going. Pat Freiermuth.
Pat Freiermuth. He was going to be
ranked, ranked 25th, and he's been bad. There's so many other guys you could go freaking pick up Taysom Hill, and he's been better. Just think about that. Tyler Conklin, bad. Zach Ertz, bad. There's so many guys. That have been disappointments. You guys get to choose. DL, who you picking out of those guys I named?
Of all the guys that you've honestly just listed, like, I'm not surprised that they're doing bad. However, Dawson Knox, like, I thought, he'd have a bounce back year this year, especially in that, the Bills, like, offense. I thought he would honestly be at least, like, tied in top 10, right? Maybe not like 1 or 2 or 5, but like he would be serviceable. Or even your boy Dalton Schultz, like, which you didn't name, but I thought he would be like one of the top guys too, because he's playing with a rookie quarterback, and usually we've said it so many times that's like your security blanket. But yeah, I would say definitely without a doubt. Yeah, I mean, I don't even know. Like, I can't even feel the disappointment. I'm disgusted with all the names.
The thing with Dawson Knox is it's not even like Kincaid is the one, like, everything is going to Diggs. Everything. As a Gabe Davis owner, everything is going to Diggs.
Gabe Davis gets like 2 looks a
game.
My
God. Oh my God.
It might be touchdowns, but like it doesn't matter. There's nothing else. So
dude, okay,
unreal.
Okay, 2 years ago, Gabe Davis came out on the field. We're like, all right, this is the guy. And then like last year, I was like, all right, here we go. At least a wide receiver too, right? Right. But then, you got Diggs, who's like just crying about not, and they're feeding into that. They're like, oh, he's crying because he didn't get the touches, or no one's looking at him, blah, blah, blah. And all of a sudden, he's getting like all the balls to him, in his face, by the way.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, yeah, Dawson, like, I just feel like they're pacifying Diggs at this point. But yeah, I mean, I will say, like, Laporta, who saw that?
No, we'll get there. Whoa.
I'm sorry. I get excited about those.
I saw that coming.
I'm really excited about tight end.
Yeah. Like, let's keep going. Tight end sucks. You never know. I feel like I'm a tight end whisperer, but we'll get to that in a moment. Another guy that I think's been a disappointment is Darren Waller. He's got all the talent in the world, and he's ranked 14th. 14th. Dalton Schultz has had a better season. He's ranked 7th, Dalton Schultz.
Yeah, but he's on the Giants. Like,
doesn't matter.
You talk about Daniel Jones, who's number 7, right? Number 7. And who else? Like, name a wide receiver that you're excited to start on the Jet.
You're not. It was Giants. Waller. That was the thing.
It was Waller.
Like,
that's
the
offense
was supposed to go through Waller.
Dude, the training.
And when it does, go through Waller, they actually do well.
Were insane. The training camp reports were that he was catching every single ball. What you always hear, best shape of his life.
They had to pull him off the field just so Daniel Jones would target somebody else. That's what was that.
That's the report.
That's what we were hearing.
And I know that because Tim read the report to me as we were drafting tight end. And speaking of drafting tight end, Tim, we took a guy really late, and he plays in Detroit. Our biggest surprise at the tight end position is Sam Laporta.
Huge.
He's ranked 1, 2, or 3. He's ranked in the top 3. He probably would be a top 15 receiver right now, like top 20 receiver. Like, that's how good he's been. It's been insane. Sam Laporta has been great. Tim, what say you?
I mean, you said it. I am not one to buy in on the rookie tight end. The one thing I liked about him coming into this season was the situation with Jameson Williams being suspended for, we thought, 6 or 8 games, only ended up being 3 or 4. But anywho, I just thought that they like to use the tight end in Detroit. So there wasn't really anybody else there. So I just, thought, let's give this guy a shot. It's not going to hurt because tight ends normally a wasteland. So if you're not going to invest, at least draft somebody who has this type of upside. That
You
late.
know, Laporta across both platforms, so PPR and standard, is listed as the number 4 tight end. Nobody and their mama thought that. Like, he's beating out George Kittle, Dallas Goedert. Let's talk about
Dude.
like upset. Dallas
What? Yeah.
freaking no look. He's been very, very disappointing.
He had
Kyle-
one good week last week, and that vaulted him to the top 10. If it wasn't for last week, he wouldn't be there.
You know, a guy that I
crazy.
want to talk about.
Yeah. Oh, I know who we want to talk about. Let's throw it to you. A guy who's finally cashing in after getting paid. I can't wait to talk about him. DL Cole Kmet has been great this year. How do you feel about Cole Kmet? He's ranked in the top 5.
I mean, that's not who I was going to talk about, but yeah, he's been okay.
Top
he's
5?
He's top. No. He's ranked at number 12 on PPR.
In what
right?
are you looking at? Because Fantasy Pro shows you an overall like points per game.
That's what I'm
based
looking
on
at.
leagues.
Fantasy Pros, he's listed at number 12. For PPR, for standard, if I'm taking a look at this, he's number 11. So he's been sucking ass.
No,
I
don't
wanted.
know. Time out.
What?
I think you're looking at projection, like the before year projections. If you look at the current rankings,
Yeah.
Cole Kmet's in the top 5. I promise
Well,
you.
okay. Well, whatever. Who I wanted to talk about is actually Luke Musgrave. I think
What about
he's a good like rookie tight end, and he's like sustainable, and especially with like Jordan Love, who's been mediocre, if I can say that. He had a couple good games early in the year. I think he's a little bit better. I'd rather have Luke Musgrave than Cole Kmet. Just
No shot.
oh hell yeah!
I think you're off your rocker on that one.
No
Luke
way.
Musgrave
Because
ranked 21st.
all right, so talk to me about Cole Kmet. Since you're so high on him, like what? Why are you so high on Cole Kmet?
Because the Bears offense sucks, and there's only 2 guys they're throwing the ball to. And number 1 is DJ Moore, and number 2 is Cole Kmet. And when you're in the red zone and DJ Moore gets double coverage or bracket coverage, Cole Kmet's wide open over the middle. And he's got like 5 touchdowns on the year. So I think that's here to stay. That's really it.
He kind of reminds me of Jimmy Graham in the red zone.
I could see that.
Yeah.
I absolutely
Obviously,
could
he's
see
not
I
the
mean,
huge playmaker, you know, in between the 20s, but I like his red zone potential.
hold on. Keep talking, cause let me just pull up what JC said
that. Mhm.
2
Yeah.
weeks ago about
All right,
Cole
well, can
Kmet.
we talk
I mean,
about how
Yeah.
Jonnu Smith has more fantasy points than Kyle
Pitts.
Pitts?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm the only Kyle Pitts believer here.
No,
It's
no,
been
no.
like
Hold
3
on.
years in fantasy, and I continue to tell people to draft him, and I continue to
I
tell people
know.
to hold on. He finally had a good game. The last 2
Yeah.
games have been solid.
Yeah.
I mean, the
They're
talent's
starting
there.
to, I feel like
Yeah.
they're passing a little bit more now, and he's getting the looks. London's getting the looks.
I really think they got to make him a focus. He's got to be a big part of it. I think that he's just a guy, but they actually got to focus and get him the ball, because once the ball's in his hands, he could do some things, But
Yeah.
getting him the ball is, And for a tight end who's supposed to be Megatron at tight end, doesn't have the best hands. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And then
It's-
can I bring up one guy who I feel is not talked about anywhere? He's
Yeah.
been Mr. Consistency, and if he starts finding the end zone, he's
Uh-huh.
going to move up to top
Can I guess?
5.
Can I guess?
Yeah.
Jake Ferguson?
No.
No. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Evan Ingram.
Oh yeah.
This guy is legitimately seeing almost 8 targets a game, and
That's
he's
great.
pulling in, anywhere between 6 or 7 of them, and he just hasn't found the end zone yet. And
Okay,
part of
real
that,
quick.
is that
I just want to bring this back up.
Trevor Lawrence
Hold on.
sucks.
Wait, let me just bring this back up. Okay. You guys ready? You guys ready for this?
Yep.
Okay. This is going great.
Can't hear anything. It's always interesting to see what I look like. You know how you like play back your voice and you're like, oh, that's what I sound like. I'm looking at myself I'm like, that's what I look like. It's always freaking interesting. You got audio? What do I say here? I'm pretty sure I could tell you what I say here. I wouldn't start any Bears right now because they suck. That's probably what I said. But they did say.
Yeah, right.
It's talking too much. I can't hear. Hold on. Hold on. All right. Okay. Okay. I tried again.
Oh, hey!
Didn't work.
Another
But
one
anyways,
where it failed.
JC laughed, like literally laughed about starting Cole Kmet. And here he is talking about how great Cole Kmet would be. Top 10? What did you say?
He's top 5 right now.
Oh, top 5 tight end. But you wouldn't have started him 3 weeks ago.
But you know what? But that's what fantasy is. It's a week to week thing, and it starts and ends with Justin Fields.
Backpedaling.
It started. He looks so bad, but no, that's not. Fields looks so bad. He looks so bad,
Okay.
and now that he's hurt.
Now,
Here's what I'll say. Here's what I'll say.
You
Now
didn't
that
want to
hurt-
start. No. You didn't want to start a single Bear the last 3 weeks, and now you're talking about like, well, Cole Kmet, top 5 tight end. I don't know why you wouldn't start him when you're telling everyone don't start him. Like, don't start a Bear. But now you're saying Cole Kmet's top 5 tight end. He's real great. I'm really impressed by him. But you weren't, though, bro. I'm calling you out. You weren't impressed by him 3 weeks ago. You were talking shit about him. You literally laughed into the camera and said, like, why would you start anyone from the Bears? They all suck, right? So I just got to call you out on that, dude, because honestly, like, you can't, like, talk shit and then be like, oh, yeah, no, Cole Kmet.
He's been a surprise, though. Hold on. I'm not telling you to go do anything. I'm not saying, oh, I was right on Cole Kmet. What I said is he's having a great year.
You didn't, but you didn't say that. You said
I just
like,
said that. I
you
just
said that
he's
now
top
after
5.
the
He's having
fact.
a great year.
After
Time
the
out.
fact.
I'm only telling you what, Dustin. What are you? You're
After
coming
the
at me for
no, I'm
no
just
reason.
saying.
I'm trying to tell you he's had a top 5 year. That's all. That's where he's at. I'm trying to tell you he's a guy who's been a surprise. I'm not telling you that I was wrong. I'm not telling you anything different.
Okay,
But
that's all I want to hear. That's all I want to hear is that you were wrong because you laughed.
No.
You
You're gonna feel like an
laughed.
idiot when you go back and watch Dustin. You're gonna feel like an idiot because I didn't tell you that. Oh, I was right about him. I said he's been a surprise. Is what I'm telling you. He's been better than I thought. Like better than people projected.
Yeah, because you literally told everyone don't start any Bears players.
I wouldn't have when they were bad.
They suck.
Week 1, Justin
week
Fields
2.
had 13 points. Week 2, Justin Fields had 14 points. Week 3, he had 9 points. That's terrible.
No,
when you have a quarterback going for
He's
14,
not.
13,
He did
and
not
9,
have week 3. Okay.
Week 3 had 9
You want
points.
you gonna
I'm
deep
just trying
dive?
to tell you.
You want a deep dive?
I'm looking right
You
at
really
the number.
want to? Okay.
Yeah. When you do that, none of your guys are going to be any good.
No. I'm out. My point being is that you literally laughed and called everyone an idiot for starting any
I didn't
Bears
call
player.
anybody an idiot.
Okay, you didn't say the word idiot. However, you did say, why would you start Justin Fields? Why would you start DJ Moore?
Yeah,
Cole
they were bad.
No, time
were
out.
bad.
Stop. Just stop, bro. You laughed when you said Cole Kmet. What? I would have thought I can pull the video up again.
That's fine. You can
if
pull the
you
video.
want.
They were playing poorly. I wouldn't want anything to do. Time out.
No,
not time out. I wouldn't. No. I wouldn't want to start anybody when the offense is bad.
Bro. Okay. He's just going crazy. This man like literally laughed about starting Cole Kmet. Now he's backpedaling and saying like, "Oh, he's top 5." Like, "Oh my god, I totally would have started him. Like, you should grab him." This and that. And that's my point. And that's it. I'm just gonna leave it at that. We can move on.
We can move forward.
But I'm just saying, you were wrong. And you know you were wrong, and now you're trying to act as if like, oh, you knew that Cole Kmet was going to be a top 10 tight end. My point, and that's it. We can move on.
Moving forward.
You done? Because who beat your ass this week in fantasy?
No, I just want to put you. I just want
that ass.
corner.
That ass.
All right, guys, we've moved on.
Right here.
Like,
Right.
that okay. So that's what immature people do. Instead of like just like admitting that like, hey, I wasn't right about that. They gotta like reflect to something else. But yeah, we'll go ahead and move on. Yes, JC beat me, but he was wrong about Cole Kmet and all the other Bears players. that he told you not to start. And then the following week, Justin Fields went off, DJ Moore went off, and then Cole Kmet caught like 3 touchdowns. It was crazy. Okay. So he was wrong. We're going to bring him back. Let's see if he talks shit. He probably will because he can't help himself. But we're bringing him back.
I mean, it's bogus that you're just throwing me off. That's fucked up. But I will say this.
Yeah, you're
I
wrong.
told you that right now, I wouldn't have started them. At the time is what I said. Verbatim, I said I wouldn't start any Bears right now. And the next week they had a good game. Then you started again. But in the moment, you were playing
But
like
you also
shit.
said,
So
you also
I wouldn't have
said,
started anybody in the moment.
no, time out. You also said after they had a good game, you still wouldn't start them. I can pull that tape up too. Everybody can look back at what you
Then
said.
pull it.
Bro.
Then pull it. You keep trying, and it's not happening.
No, I'm not.
So.
I'm not trying. It's fact, bro. You laughed. You literally laughed and said, "Cole Kmet? Huh, why would you start him?"
Sucks.
And
why
now
would
you're
you, why would you start anybody?
But now you're saying that like, oh, he's top 10. He's top 5.
I'm
What
telling
are
you because he really
talking
is
about?
ranked right now in the top 10.
Yeah,
So I'm trying to tell you,
after
that's
the
what
fact. After
Time
the
out.
fact.
Time out.
You were wrong.
Let's
just move on, dude. Just let
you
it
sound
go.
ridiculous right now. I told you not to
I
start
sound
him
ridiculous.
because he
You're
wasn't.
the one who
wasn't
said
good.
Cole Kmet sucked. I
I
sound
didn't say he
ridiculous.
sucked. I said the offense was bad right now at the moment. The offense was bad. That's
he
what I
did
said.
not.
The offense was
Whoa.
bad.
Okay.
No.
Time
Bro,
out. Let's just put him in timeout. Okay, we're gonna move on. Holy cow. Dude is so mad. Okay. Let him breathe. Wow. Okay. I'm gonna let it go. I'm just gonna drop it. I'm not gonna say anything.
Drop it.
Just gonna agree. Okay.
Yeah, just drop it.
I don't appreciate you knocking me off, though. Not cool. Let's keep
because
going.
You're being ridiculous, bro. You're yelling. You're literally yelling.
Because I told you not to start any Bear. Is what I said. Not to start any Bear. That's what I said.
At that time.
It doesn't change. Yeah, at the time. Exactly. It doesn't change that he's in the top 5 right now. It doesn't change that. He's in the top 5 right now. Like I said, right now I'm not starting any Bear. The quarterback scored 9 fantasy points in that week. Like in some leagues he scored 0. In Pickler's league that we're in, Tim, he scored negative points that week. Negative points because interceptions cost 4 points or whatever. All I'm saying at that time was the Bears offense looked terrible. I wouldn't start any Bear right now, is what I said. That doesn't mean I'm not going to start any Bear ever. It just means right now. And they had a great week the next week. I would have had egg on my face, and I said, hey, they had a good week. You know, I'm never afraid to say I'm wrong. I'm never afraid to say, hey, called it wrong, and that is what it is. That does not change the fact that he's currently a top 5 tight end because he is a top 5 tight end. So,
and I will point out the tight end field is awful. So you've got somebody like Kittle who is ranked 8th right now in half-point PPR solely because he's had a 3-touchdown game. He's had 4 of his games. He scored under 5 fantasy points. 4 out of the 6 games, and he's still top 8. So it's tight ends always skewed. Like one big game, you're jumping the ranks. Like 3 bad games, you may not move anywhere because everyone else had bad games. So tight ends just always such a wasteland. And I mean, you could argue all day and night about these lower level tier guys and who should be ranked higher and who's. I mean, at the end of the day, you're mostly looking for touchdowns here.
Agreed. It's fantasy. It gets heated.
Yeah.
And here we are. Everyone knows we all love each other and, love Dustin. We just get heated sometimes. Let's jump over to the wide receiver position and start with some disappointments and then wrap this bad boy up because we got an hour in here already on it. The first disappointment at wide receiver, I think, that's been out there, not counting, injuries because I don't think that's a fair part of it. Man, there's so many names. Where to start? I think Tyler Lockett has not been good this year. That's a guy who's been a disappointment. Chris Godwin, another guy that's been a disappointment. Michael Thomas, year in and year out. I love it. That's a good old Lord Goose. Appreciate you. There's plenty of guys who have been disappointing. Juju Smith-Schuster, another guy who's been disappointing. Christian Watson, yeah, he hasn't played, but I don't know what's going on with him. Definitely a good guy to buy low on. There's been a ton of guys, honestly, a ton of guys that have been disappointing. DL, where are you at on wide receiver? Any guys that you think have been, less than what you thought they were going to be?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of hard because I would say, with Rodgers' injuries, I thought honestly, like, Watson was going to be a huge factor. Like that, like definitely changed my
Wilson.
whole like Wilson. I'm sorry, Wilson.
Garrett.
Jarrett Wilson. Thank you.
Garrett
Thank you.
Wilson, yeah. Mhm.
Jarrett Wilson, I thought was going to be the guy this year.
Garrett.
Damn it! See,
Okay.
this one I think
Jarrett
I
Payton.
win.
You're a Bears fan all the way. Jarrett Payton. I get it. I see how
No.
you do it.
I suck at names. But we all know that. But like honestly, Garrett Wilson, I thought was gonna be the guy this year. Like honestly, that's why I drafted him like so high. I thought like, okay, he's got the QB, and you can see that, right? And now all of a sudden you're seeing like Zach Wilson, kind of like he's starting to get a little bit of the hang of it. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna hang on to him. I'm not gonna drop him.
Yeah.
I don't think I'll get anything like
Not right
worthy to like trade him, but I'm not gonna give up on him. Another like wide receiver that I would say that I was kind of down on. Let's see, Olave. Like he's kind of, I mean, he's not horrible, hit or miss.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would say I was kind of down on him. Zay Flowers has been a sneaky like surprise. I drafted him towards the end. He's been decent, but nothing to like write home about. But yeah, I would say that would be like the ones that I was like, I think Garrett Wilson is the one that like really like hurt me the most.
Yeah, agreed.
If
Tim,
I say that.
Yeah. No, I like that one. I like that one. Tim, any guys that have been a disappointment for you?
Yeah, first I got to start with my flag plant player of Calvin Ridley. I have him everywhere. He was the total my guy, and I expected more. I'm not totally out on him yet. It's just
But wouldn't
I
you say
would-
that? I'm sorry, I got to interject here, but
Yeah,
like,
please
wouldn't
do,
you
please
say that like Calvin Ridley's kind of a dice throw, right? Like this is like his first real like year of coming back from the whole Atlanta fiasco. I mean,
correct.
think before he got suspended, like he like legit went to grandma's house and like ditched out for like almost a month, right? Like
Yep.
with that being removed, I mean,
Yeah, I just the reports I heard that like he had his head cleared, he was in the right space. I seen
Fair.
videos from training camp, and he looked electric. I mean, you see something Zay Jones was doing, and then he did it right after, and you're like, they sped that up, right? And it was like, no. So like he didn't lose a step, anything like that. I mean, yes, he's struggled with some drops, which I think he's going to correct as the season goes on. But just so far, I mean, just that whole passing game. I mean, if you bought in early, or I'm more late on Christian Kirk, you're happier with that than you are earlier on Calvin Ridley.
I got a sidebar a little bit, Timmy. Like, how deep do you go? Like, do you watch all the reports? Like, what are you? Okay, let me ask you this question. Like, what do you subscribe to? Like, when you're preparing yourself for the fantasy season, because I feel like you have like tabs on everyone. Like, what is your resources? Like, what are you looking at when before the season starts? Like, what reports? What apps are you using to help you prepare for fantasy football?
Honestly, I'm just a big Twitter guy.
Okay.
I don't know if it's, I guess I'm following the right people. I've got the right, follows, but yeah, I find some beat writers, or I notice like analysts I follow always retweet somebody else.
Can you name one? Can you name one or two that you?
Oh my God, I love the CBS guys. CBS.
Yeah.
I'm a big like ESPN. I've kind of drawn away from. I got started obviously like most of us with like Matthew Berry, but like since then, like the fantasy footballers, I'm a big fan of them.
We are.
Oh yeah.
Too.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, they're just fun, smart guys. They very analytical and everything, and I'm like that too. I'm a big numbers guy, so I like seeing stats that you normally wouldn't look at, and then try to make your opinions on a player based off of that, because you could look at somebody's stat line and find positive things and negative things. And if you, for some reason, don't like a player, you can find a reason why not to like some player, no matter how good he is, what his numbers look like, and vice versa. So it's all about trying to kind of stay level-headed and finding the right narrative for each player.
So like Jamie Eisenberg, Richard,
David Richard, yeah.
David Richard.
Yeah.
I don't like the main guy, Adam.
Adam Azer.
Yeah, I get it. He's a
bugs me.
little,
Yeah,
a little
kinda-
annoying. Yeah,
Yeah, he's like
He's the goofball that keeps him going. So
yeah.
I
They
do
love
like
him,
him
though.
though. Like
Yeah.
you know, starting off in fantasy football, like they actually helped me win a league, and like so. And the fantasy footballers, I like them too because they're not like so hell bent on their guys where I feel like CBS is, but they're kind of like, okay, this is who I'm going for. This is like a backup guy, so that's interesting. So the beat writers. So do you follow like all the beat writers for every like 32 teams, or do you have your
I'm
favorite?
probably not up to 32, but I'm probably a good third of the league, closer to half of the league. And honestly, a lot of it is more so like injury related. I like to know what they're seeing when they're at these practices, and like, oh, he's off on the sidelines and he's only on a bike, or he's running sprints, looked good. You know, it's just little things like that where it's like, okay, I got this guy. I don't need a plan B. He's going to play.
So you're a fan of our doc, our resident doctor that comes in and gives the.
I wish he had his own handle. I'm trying to get him his own Twitter handle.
Oh,
yeah,
it's not a bad deal.
Exactly.
Okay, well, look,
I know he travels a lot. He's always traveling. So
he
it's
is,
and that's why he hasn't created one. He hasn't had the time to do it. But we'll throw a feeler at him and see if he can tweet while he's on the plane flying around. You know,
awesome. I think I just need his number. Maybe
well, he's elusive. He only lets one of us call him. He doesn't like when I call him. He only lets Dustin call him. So
I like that. I like that insight. Okay, sorry, that was a side tangent, but it is interesting too because like honestly, like we're talking fantasy and we're talking about all these numbers and things like that, but like people that are successful in fantasy football, obviously that's why Timmy's here. That's why JC is here. I'm here just to be the comic relief. However, it's interesting. No, I'm just kidding. But but at the same time, it's really interesting to like, okay, do you follow Twitter or are you a sleeper guy? Or do you like certain like commentary? Like who are you avoiding? Who do you like? I would even say like back in the day, I would do like start sit week 5, blah, 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 and read what was ever on the internet. However, now like podcast is taking over. You don't really see that as much. So it's just really interesting to hear like, especially the depth that to me, like it really, I'm impressed because you're like, oh yeah, coming out of training camp, this guy was da 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 da, and I was like, oh shit, okay, I need to up my game.
I want to segue because I think it's a fantastic topic to kind of talk about how people use fantasy advice, what they go to, where do they go. There's receivers that I would tell you were surprises. Forget all that. Let's talk about what people use to get the advice to get to where they are. Tim's been doing it for a long time. I've been doing it for a long time. How do we, do all these fantasy leagues? How do we finish, highly? How do we get money? Because ultimately people are playing for money. You're trying to win some money. We'll tell you, some of the guys that they mentioned, Jamie Eisenberg on CBS, great follow. Dave Richard on CBS, great follow. Andy Holloway from the Fantasy Footballers, a great follow. Jake Seeley, I think, is one of the top 3.
All the fantasy footballers are a great follow, honestly.
Yeah. Jake
Mike
Seeley.
Hitman. Yep.
Yeah. Jake Seeley is on The Athletic. I think he's a fantastic. He usually wins most of or a lot of the leagues he does. Andy Behrens from Yahoo Sports, I think, is fantastic. Scott Pianowski, I think he's fantastic. There's so many guys I would tell you to follow. If you're interested, want to jump on one of our Twitters.
Hashtag Ask Us FFP.
And then you can type in fantasy. When you click on who we follow, type in fantasy or just football as keywords, and it'll show you everybody that we follow that is football related, fantasy related. Follow those people. Shefty, a great guy to follow because you'll find out about injuries, right away. There's so many guys.
Tom Purcello? Am I saying his last name?
Tom Pelissero. Yeah, Pelissero.
There you go.
He's fantastic. Yeah, there's a bunch of guys I would tell you to follow, Stephania Bell, good follower. Even though Matthew Berry gets shit on a lot because he's like the noobs fantasy guy, you should follow him still because he got a lot of really good information and he gets fed a lot of information from different people. He still knows his shit, He's still a good guy to follow. I would tell you this. You can really tell a lot about your fantasy leagues and what league you're in because people are going to read that league's information. So if you're in ESPN everyone's going to read, like ESPN writers' info,
Yep.
and they're going to all project and draft based on ESPN rankings. But I think it's important to be able to take, a little bit of time. If you really want to win, you take a spreadsheet and you literally import. You can copy and paste ESPN's rankings, Yahoo's rankings, Fantasy Pros rankings, and you can see kind of where the deviation is. And you can really win drafts by taking guys who are ranked higher in Fantasy Pros than they are on ESPN. Maybe on ESPN, a guy's ranked 90th overall, but on Fantasy Pros, he's ranked, I don't know, 45th. And when you're in the 8th round, when the 90th guy gets drafted, you can take a guy who's ranked 45th and get a bunch of value. You can really win a league by drafting like that. It doesn't take a lot to do it. There's so many different tips, so many different strategies you can do. Dustin was alluding to it earlier. You really soon, you don't have to do it now. Soon, you really got to start looking at playoff schedules and start trading for those players. When the deadline comes, you got to do that.
Like for example, like I grabbed Cleveland's defense, right? I'm gonna hang on to him for the rest of the year because going through the like playoffs, they're gonna be like the top guy. I'm more of a fan of like streaming defenses more than anything. I don't think you really need to draft them, but like once you find that one, where you don't constantly have to like trade it out every week, I think is huge. I mean, I know defenses are kind of like, oh, okay, great. But at the same point, I would also say like even Roto World Football, which also gives you the indication on Yahoo. I use a lot of Yahoo on my platforms in fantasy. I use a lot of Yahoo, but Roto World Football, I mean, they're jumping ahead of like most of these analysts. Like they come out and then you see the analysts coming out. So I think knowledge is power, especially if you're thinking about like start sits, drafting, or even like waivers. Like these are like some huge guys. Of course, we're probably number one because we're analyzing everything. But kind of side note too, like how long do you guys like actually take on a weekly basis? Do you pour over this data every week, or are you just like what's your go-to? I would say, because there's no way you can pour over this data and then make waiver wire or like start sit destinations. Like, Tim? So is there like one area that you go to?
Well, first of all, I start with need. Like I look at my teams and I try to determine, what do I need this week? What do I need going forward? Are there any holes? Like, for example, to your comment about Cleveland defense, I just picked up Cleveland defense this week as well. I've been writing Eagles, and I mean,
we'll give them a second to
buffer out. Middle of the pack. They haven't done anything great. So I've been writing Eagles, and they've just been all right. So I think Cleveland forward is going to be awesome. So I'm happy about that.
Oh, for sure. And yeah, I mean, like it's just interesting because there's so much. Like I feel like fantasy like gets bigger and bigger every year. I mean, even like this, I don't know about you guys, but like I know it's a sleeper app. I'm not getting a lot of notifications. I don't know if it's just me. Like I'm not getting the phone, but I'm not seeing. Usually that was the first thing that would pop, and then Twitter. Are you guys like running into the same thing, or is there something I'm missing?
No, I get the notifications. So double check your phone, uninstall the app and then reinstall it just to make sure that
maybe you're getting
the notice. Yeah, because I get all the notice a ton. You may have like muted it at some point or clicked on something. That happens from time to time. But Sleeper's a fantastic resource. We've been touting them for going on 2, maybe 3 years now. A fantastic resource. Another thing I would tell you, because we're at the a third of the way through the season, look at teams that are doing poorly, and when they have guys on bye, offer a guy 70 cents, 80 cents on the dollar, offer a lesser guy for a guy who they can use this week and go grab the better talent, go do that. And it's okay if you take an L 1 week, if you're doing well, if you're in the catbird seat, if you're at first, second, or third place, if you take 1 L, that's okay. If you improve your team for the long run, that's what you're trying to do. That's totally okay. And that's the move to do.
That's what I would say too. Like, just kind of like if you're a 1-5 team, as I kind of said earlier in the episode, like, don't give up, man. I've seen so many teams go. For example, last year, Lauren was like dead to rights. That girl like was at bottom of the barrel, and all of a sudden, like Christian McCaffrey got traded over to San Francisco, and she won the league. But she was also up on the waiver wires too. So like, don't give up, because a lot of teams are going to give up when they're at the bottom. Don't be that guy. Keep playing. Keep like jockeying for that position, because
And
even if you're number 1 or number 2 or number 3 or wherever you're at, those teams are also going to like shit the bed. Like you can't be good at week in and week out. They're going to shit the bed, and that might be that one win that gets you over to get into the playoffs, and then you go on your run. So I'll leave it on that. Go ahead, Timmy.
speaking of the waiver wire, we're at the time now where the big bye weeks are,
Mm-hmm.
who make sure post waiver wire you're looking to see, okay, I missed out on the, who was it, Zach Evans, or back up to Christian McCaffrey's. So who got dropped to get those guys? Because
Yes.
are they on a bye?
Yes.
Is it a guy who's on a bye? Like, so it's almost like we're in the waiver wire 2.0 stage where it's 2 days worth of actual waivers.
Great point,
It's-
dude.
yeah,
It's
go ahead.
great point, because a lot of people, I'm sorry, JC, I just get
Okay.
excited. But like, great point though, because like people have like been seeing those people on their benches. They've just been annoyed with them, and they're just like, oh, I'm never going to start them because they had somebody better. However, your team could like honestly benefit them. And depending on the matchup, and depending on, like you said, the bye weeks, that might be a plug and play. So that's a huge, great advice. Okay, go ahead, JC.
No worries. Let me give another piece. If you do a fab budget league, usually you can look at the offers report, whether that's in Yahoo or ESPN or Sleeper, whatever app you use to acquire players or to do your draft, to do your fantasy. A beautiful thing that I do in ESPN, I look at the offers report when a player gets claimed, and I look at other teams who unsuccessfully tried to bid on a player. So if team A got a player and team B, C, and D tried to get him, but they didn't, then I know, oh, that team sees a need for running back or tight end or wide receiver. And I know in my head, I have tight ends or running backs or receivers, what have you. And then I try to trade that position to them because I know they have the need. So that's another little way to kind of, initiate a trade, initiate trade talks. Sometimes you got a guy like me who is very active in leagues, and I'll just ask a team, hey, how do you feel about this guy? Are you interested in anyone on my team? And I find out in week 1 or week 2, okay. And then week 3, 4, 5 pass, and I'm like, okay, I know he liked him. He's been doing really well. Let me offer him this guy. Now I've known for a while he's liked this guy. That also helps facilitate trades. The last thing I'll share with you, in ESPN leagues, there's a little ticker, a trade analyzer at the bottom. And when you try to offer people, they'll have like a rating score for each player. They'll say, oh, this guy's worth 82. This guy's worth 85. This guy's worth 90. That shit is trash. Let me tell you, that shit is trash. A fantastic way, and I hate to say this, to take advantage of your league mates is to use that tool against them. You could throw in a quarterback who you'll never start, who's your backup quarterback, but he's worth an 85, 86. And then you trade a shitty running back in addition to that. And then you ask for one guy, and it looks like it's lopsided and you're losing a deal. And people will accept that. And you're never going to start that backup quarterback, and that running back didn't mean shit to you, and now you got a starter. That's a wonderful way to add guys. Wonderful way.
Okay, so I know last week you talked about like Dave Richardson's like
Dave Richardson.
Yeah, his like value. Like, is there
Got a
any
trade
other
value chart that comes out every week, every Tuesday?
Is there any other trade
Yes.
analysts? Because I use like Fantasy Pros personally just to see like the rankings, but I don't know if that's the best.
Mhm.
Like, besides him, who would be your second? Or
Tim?
what else would you
Honestly, I've done the Google search of like trade analyzers, and I haven't found anything that I actually liked. I feel like Dave Richards' like valuation is as close as it gets. I like it even better than Fantasy Pros. I mean, honestly, you can only use that as a guide. They don't know what your team looks like. They don't know what your record is. So you really just gotta, do your own research and figure out, is this the guy I'm trying to get, and this is what I'm willing to pay for it? Then do it.
Yeah, and that brings up a good point too, because I think being a manager of your own
Agreed.
team, you already know the answer. You just want that feel good, like, I'm
Looks like we're cutting in
right,
and
Very
out.
true.
and this
Very
is
true.
why.
Yeah.
And I've had that happen so many times where I'm like, all right, I'm gonna look at the trade analyzer. No, they're still wrong. I'm not doing it, right? So I mean, go with your gut. I feel like a lot of times that is your best bet. But at the same time, when you are presented with an actual trade itself, like just be sure that like that person wins too. It's not just about you like pulling the wool over somebody's eyes, but you also like helping them too. Like everyone should like benefit from a trade. Everyone should, you know, as weird as it sounds, because you're competing against them, but like help them too, man. Like because you're gonna get more like more trade offers that are accepted than the ones that just like shut you down because you're being an asshole and you're like,
Right.
here's
Right.
my bench and I want Cooper Kupp. So
Yeah. If you're not starting by sending a legit offer, then chances are they may not even respond. They might just decline it versus sending a response or a counter. I like to reach out to the manager personally, and if possible, of course, and just find out what they're feeling, what's their view on this guy. I said, hey, I'm really looking for this. I've got this to offer out of these two running backs. Which one do you like more? And then just try to work something out like that.
yeah, just be like, it's competitive. Obviously, you saw me and JC get heated because that's just the way we are. Is like big brother versus little brother. Um, but yeah, at the end of the game, like, we're all here to like have fun and win, right? But don't be that guy who's trying to be smarter than the person in the room, right? Like, don't be that guy. So, I mean, that's my best advice. Just like try to like help them, and everyone wins. But I don't know, JC.
No,
like,
that's a really good point, because it's like you want to be able to trade with them again in the future.
Yeah.
You don't want to completely screw them, and then
yeah,
you lose a trade partner.
Exactly, because then they're gonna look at you like, oh, I remember that one time you traded me CMC when he was injured, and now, just kidding.
Yeah,
that did happen. But anyways, go ahead, JC.
That really does happen. That really does happen. When you make a trade, you don't want to screw anybody completely over because they'll never trade with you. You're right. That's a real thing. That's a definitely real thing. It's funny because in all the leagues I'm in with Tim, not all of them, but some of them, especially our home league that he runs, people do not want to trade with me. Yet they always trade with me.
Yeah.
So that's a funny way. Yeah, it's
I
a funny
wonder
way,
why.
the way things work. Yeah, nah, I just think like I'm like the hated, the guy who has a fantasy podcast. No one's
No,
no
man,
one's gonna talk shit to me.
you know
so
what?
That's
If
how
I
it
could be
goes.
frank, you're that kid that like, he knows
Yeah.
something. He knows something. Why does he want this guy? And why is he willing to give up a Christian McCaffrey? Or why is he willing to give that up? And like legit, you've said it many times on the pod, and you've said it many times to me, is like, I don't fall in love with my players. I just want like, this is better for my team. But there's always that stipulation of like, what don't I know? So to help the homie phonies out here,
that he knows,
phony homies
sure,
that are out here, like, dude, just like throw it in an analyzer, see if you feel bet, but trust your gut. Like, the end of the day, they're just throwing numbers in. They don't know your team, and yeah, just have fun with it. It's just fantasy, right? It's not reality. Anyways, all right. I don't know if you want to put a bow on it.
It is just fantasy. Yeah. We want to thank Tim for joining us. Tim, it's been fantastic having you on.
Hour and a half.
As our
Thank you,
third
Tim.
co-host of the wheel. We love it. Yeah. What's up?
I said I'm so glad you guys had me. I had a blast.
Well, I don't know what. Yeah, hopefully it won't be. I think my internet's dropping on me because
I think next time it'll just be me and Tim, because like we're both pretty calm. JC just gets like riled up. His underwear in a bunch. No, just kidding. I gotta give him stuff. But no, thanks, Tim. It's great meeting you. Like, that's what I like. That's what I like about this season, JC. Like, we're like honestly getting to meet like some of the people in our league. Faces, names, and just like, oh, okay, I understand that person. And I think that's what it's all about. Like, I think that's the best part about fantasy, is that, we get to understand the people we're going against, and like and even like the weird quirks. Like, some of the people in our league have like, they have their own like hunting channel, and they
Yeah,
have
which
their
is
own
crazy. Yeah.
like lounge and what have you. So,
Yeah.
but yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
on the way out, is there anything else you want to share to me? Like, do you have any companies or any podcasts that like you're doing or anything like that, man, that we should
No,
check out?
funny story. Me and Giancarlo, we did a couple episodes of a fantasy podcast for football, maybe I don't know 7 or 8 years ago in his
Oh, cool.
garage. So
Oh, cool.
this isn't technically my first, but this is like my first, I'd say, big time one.
Hey.
But yeah, so we've had some fun in the past with that type of stuff.
You know, honestly, Timmy, maybe you should be the third fake football guy. You know what I
Hey.
mean? Because like, honestly, I'm okay with it because as you can see, me and JC kind of like, we go at it. But you could be,
That was the first time ever that we went out that hard. That was
You
the first
could-
time ever. In
you could
3
be-
seasons.
you could no. Remember the Christmas episode?
Oh yeah.
Remember that Christmas
Forgot about
episode?
Yeah, really.
Okay. But you could be the calm of the storm. And I always think it's good to have like an odd number. So that way, like if someone's like, I don't know who to believe because they're both jackasses, I'm gonna go with Timmy. So
Yeah.
we'll work on it, man. I would love to have you back.
I'm like our friends group, like all time ref. Like usually
Referee. Yeah.
everything
Yeah.
He is.
goes through me if there's any type of argument. So it's kind of funny you say that about being in
He
between.
literally is our
Yeah.
referee. Literally, like if there's ever our discussion or argument, we bring it to Tim and he says, "This is how it should be." Literally, he's
Listen,
our
guys.
referee.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I like your analytics. Like I like the numbers. I like listen, this is what I heard from okay.
Yeah.
So we'll
Yeah.
draw up the contract.
Yeah.
Let's see if we can do this. All
Mhm.
right.
Just make sure in that contract we can upgrade my internet some.
Yeah,
I don't know
please.
why I've been so choppy, but it's been pretty bad.
That's his only ask. He doesn't want
Yeah.
to get paid.
I just
something
want
to the
better
internet.
internet.
That's
Yeah,
it.
yeah. Give me a direct line, please.
There you go. That's hilarious. That's hilarious. Well, Tim, thank you so much for being on
Yeah.
the show. We
Absolutely.
appreciate you. There may be a contract coming in the mail. We'll find out. We got to run it over the doc. We got to talk to the doc and see what he says, and then go from there.
All right.
You
All
know?
right.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Yeah, we appreciate you, Tim. Thank you so much. Anyway, phony homies, that's it for today's episode. Remember to shoot your start sit questions over to us on Twitter. DL, where can they tweet us for the questions?
At tweet FFG.
And then always use the hashtag because we're always searching. Literally, Dustin and I jump on Twitter and then we look at the hashtag and we see if anyone's asking us questions. DL, what's that hashtag?
Ask us FFG.
And if you don't want to use Twitter and you want to send us questions, hey, I got to start, Devontae Adams or T. Higgins. What do I do? Or should I go pick up this guy on waivers or should I accept this trade? Because we'll listen to your trades. We really will. Like, we'll bounce off and give you elaborate decisions as to why yes and why no. Send us to those on Twitter or you can email them to us. Where, DL?
Ask us FFG at gmail.com.
Fantastic. And lastly, please send us your voicemails. We'll play them live on the show. It'll be the first thing we do every episode. You can send us those voicemails to
Area code 708-655-4508.
Fantastic. As always, thank you so very much, funny homies, for tuning in. For DL, for Tim, my name is JC. We'll catch you guys on another fantastic episode of the Fake Football Guys Show. Remember to like, share, subscribe, and
Smash!
the notification button. Peace.
Peace out.